just want to run through all of the 7 points that we're going to be covering today, and then I'll go into them in a bit more detail and explain why these are important before we even think about writing. So we're going to be looking, when you get the slides, you're going to be getting quite a number of lists to make and subjects to actually think about, reflect upon, and dive into. So they're going to be looking at your passions, where you're giving away your power and your fears, etc. Because you cannot actually write authentically unless you're being authentic. Now, today, I've shown up without makeup on. I am growing out my grey because I'm going to grow old disgracefully. You know, I'm fed up with putting toxins and poisons in my head and into my nervous system that's going right near my brain. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's a time to switch things up and actually own the grey dawn. And so that's something. And then we're going to look at how we actually unravel all of these. So I'm going to get going. I'm going to share the slides. And so bear with me one moment while I fix this. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know why I always make that theme tune. I need to share my screen. Oh, bear me a second. I really do need to be getting a bit more tech savvy. Here we go. You can see my lovely Canva in the background. Lovely. So here we go. So step one is all about making a list of all the things you want to say, but you don't say. And we all have them, even me. There are things like, yeah, this is just not the right time to say that, or I really don't want to be dealing with that fallout from that. And as we get older, we learn to pick our battles, as they say. Sometimes I just go full on war. Other times I'm just like, I haven't got enough time or energy to deal with that level of stupid. And then I think, okay, why am I not sharing that? This could be a learning moment for this person. Maybe they're not stupid, but then I'm like, because I know that we've all got stuff and we all come from very different places. And then I start going, okay, well, why did I not respond then? And then 9 times out of 10, when you actually start looking deeper, you're like, okay, well, that is why I'm not articulate enough. I'm not tactful enough for that conversation yet. Tact has never been a strong point of mine. Bull in a china shop, think of that. And one of the things that we can think about is that when we're actually looking at why didn't I say anything? Because a lot of the time, I'm that person in the room that puts their hands up and asks the questions. And then I get people come up to me and say, oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. And then I started to realize that I'm the person that makes those comments where I say those things. And other people then message me, go, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you wrote that. And then I start to build my network and I start finding my people. So when we don't speak up, we don't find our people. And the same is true for writing. If we are not going to write the things that we really want to write about, or we're not going to comment on the things that we really want to comment on, we've got to understand why. We've got to get under the skin of that. Is it because we don't know how to articulate ourselves? Is it because we don't have the knowledge? Is it because we're afraid of being seen? Is it we're afraid of outing ourselves? So, for example, when all of the transgender issue came up, I didn't want people to know that my father was a transvestite. I had to do loads of work on that. And then it was like, you know, you get the backlash. You're not allowed to say that word. Well, actually, I am allowed to say that word because that's how my father, not my dad, very different, identifies. And then I had to, when people were talking about finances, and it's like, okay, well, actually, if people are seeing me as this, you know, successful businesswoman, then they have to know it's not always been an easy road. They, you know, because that silver spoon I was people think I was born with, yeah, that doesn't exist in my household. It's a bit of spit and polish on a bit of probably Sheffield steel, if we're truthful. But again, talking about our financial issues that we've had in the past, or we're afraid of doing something, or we're just not ready So again, I want you to make a list of all those things, the things that you want to say that you don't say, the comments you wanted to comment on, and just tackle it, because you cannot write about these things until you get peace with yourself. So that's the first step. And nice to have you here, Steve. Step 2 is building on from what we were just saying. And it's about understanding it's actually probably a good job Steve is here. I was actually going to be using the Man Up book, Tough to Talk, as an example today. So great timing, Steve. So one of the things that some people are afraid of sharing about, they want to talk about certain things, but they're afraid. Now, I remember when I started talking about being, and for a trigger warning for everybody, not for what I'm about to share is not always easy for people to hear, because maybe they've been through something very similar, or they know somebody who has, both sides of the coin. But when we're talking about subjects such as rape or male suicide, or we're talking about divorce or infanticide, or we're talking about female genital mutilation, these are some of the things that are very close to people's hearts, and they're very, very raw. And if we want to speak about them publicly, we have to understand why we're afraid to say what we truly think about these things. Abortion is another really emotive subject. Why are we afraid? And who are we afraid of? Because is it we're afraid of ourselves and how we're going to respond to possible hatred, or the people that are connected with it? There was a lady who worked with me in one of my books, Alive to Thrive, who was sex trafficked. She was afraid of being found. She was afraid of the repercussions of that. But what she realized was, when she started writing about it, she started healing, but she also healed her family who sold her into it. So that was huge. So there's a lot of deep work that we need to do first and foremost before we can start writing. We cannot come from an authentic place until we are being authentic with ourselves. Now, I'm using the word authentic because that's, that is a word that people are relating to now. I call it being real. We got to get real with ourselves. And if we're not willing to go there for ourselves, then we can't go there for other people. And by writing it out, it is about purging it. Some of us don't like talk therapy. We'd just rather write it out, burn it, and be done with it. I do with some of my clients, I actually get them to write things out, and I say, right, okay, I want you to write this out. I want you to go to the beach, and I want you to burn it on the beach, because then what you're doing is you're using the natural alchemy. So you're using the earth, the wind, the fire, and the water, and then it washes it all out to sea. And if you don't want to do it there, and you've got a garden, put the ashes in your compost. You'll get better vegetables. So again, it's about looking at how we're alchemizing what it is that we're afraid of. Most of all, we're probably afraid of looking ourselves in the eye, but what's more fearful? Not being able to look yourself in the eye, or not being seen to be upsetting the apple cart. Now, I'm not that person. I would rather eat the apples or kick it over and find the right apple. And then make a crumble. But again, as you can see, I kind of go off on lots of different tangents. I had to do a lot of work on myself to actually go, you know what, Dawn, you are pretty cool. I actually love you. It's taken me 47 years to love you, but you're pretty cool. And I go to bed now and I tell myself I love myself. I have to hear it from someone. So, and I'm even looking every time I write something now, I'm like, did I spell that correctly? Give me a long word, I'm all good with that. Give me a word like afraid, I keep looking at it. It's like, have I spelled it correctly? It's that thing, have I spelled was correctly? It's not W-O-Z, it is W-A-S. We all get those things. And so that will be another list that I want you to work out. All the topics you want to speak on, but you're afraid of speaking at. Is it your boss? And then the next thing I want you to start thinking about is all the things you would rather people not know about you. Because the thing is, once we have overcome the fear of writing about the things that we really want to write about, so once we've overcome the fear of being judged for the things that we don't want people to know about us, then everything else is plain sailing. I mean, I'm using a sailing analogy because I love sailing. But when we out ourselves to ourselves, and that can sometimes be the biggest challenge, if not the biggest challenge that we will face, actually going, you know what? Yeah, you've been through this. Or actually, no, I've not really been through anything. Some people haven't been through anything. And I'm like, oh my God, what's that like? But we have to be comfortable within our own skin. Everything. Absolutely everything, whether it's a cellulite on our ass, whether it's the wobbly belly, whether it's the fact that we can sit down and eat a whole packet of chocolate digestives while watching Netflix or just writing. I've done that more than once. Whether it's the fact that, you know, we did break the law or we took drugs or whatever it was that we have done, whether we've stolen something, whether we've cheated on somebody, you know, whether we did something in the workplace that cost millions or that we caused someone's death. Until we get clear with that and our conscience is clear with that, then we're not going to be writing from a place of authenticity. We're not going to be writing from the place of our own personal power. And that's what I mean about our higher self. When we know, when we've written down everything we would rather people not know about us and why we don't want them to know about it. And then we go, actually, the person who I want to be would be able to tackle this like a badass. That is a very, very powerful place to come from. And anything that you're writing, you're not going to care whether Mabel and Doris over the road are gossiping about you or whether Karen and Kirsty are moaning about you on social media. You're not going to care about those people. All you're going to be caring about is your own inner peace. And that is worth, well, there's no price you can put on that. And I know that when I speak about these things, this is not something a lot of people think about because they think about writing. Okay, I need to write and I need to do this. Writing, once you get rid of all of this stuff, and when you get present to who you truly are, writing is just so easy. Writing just flows. Now, it doesn't matter whether you had a teacher who criticized you or made fun of you, or you had a parent telling you that you couldn't write for toffee, or you, like my dad used to tell me I couldn't sing for shit. I think I sound fabulous, especially when I'm walking the dog and I've got my headphones in and I can't even hear myself. It's great. I'm the best singer in the world. But when we are in that space of just, this is me and I'm passionate about this, it doesn't matter what our friends and family and colleagues are saying, because when we are on it and we're like, yes, this is it, we radiate something so powerful and we light up, and there's something that happens to us that we just get excited. And then what we'll do is we'll have someone tell us, oh, well, that wasn't very good. And then we're like, oh, no, oh, really? No, actually, I was good. I felt really great about it. And it's that I am on fire feeling that we want to harness all the time. Because when we do that, our writing flows. It's like taking the dam out of a massive river, and just letting the beavers just go and have some fun and play. You want to take a moment to tap into how you felt when your family, friends, work colleagues, strangers responded to something that you wrote. But you need to take it with as I say, take it with a pinch of salt, because the most important thing is how you felt. when you were talking about it, or when you were writing about it, or when you commented. And if your feelings are so off the charts that you are so excited, then great, run with it. But look at the intention behind it, because if you go, yeah, I'm going to write this, I'm going to really put one over on them and I'm going to show them, that's a really gnarly energy to come from. That's not what it's about. That's not who you are. That's not who you are at your core. That is not what your soul is here to do. We are here to connect. And one of the reasons why we have so many mental health issues around the world is, especially here in the West, we deal with our mental health issues in a really negative way a lot of the time, because we're so disjointed. We're so far away from family and friends. We're so isolated. And yes, people out in Latin America and the Arab world and Asia and Africa, they have traumas, they have mental health issues, but they deal with it in a much more positive way because they have community. They sit and they talk about it. They can disagree and they will still love each other. They're not, oh, I disagree with you, I can't be in your life, go away. That's really quite childish. We have a very immature view of mental health in the West, and how we deal with relationships in a lot of ways. And we have to look at how we're feeling, and how we felt about their response. Because if we're around people who egg us on when we do something with a bit of spite, or with a little bit of gnarly ego, they're not the people that we need around us. We need the people who celebrate us when we're radiating all that goodness and all of that soul joy. And he said soul glow. I thought we were going to have a Coming to America moment there with Eddie Murphy, but we didn't. See how my brain goes off in all these places? Love it. Great for writing, because you write down all these ideas and you go, oh, then I'm down a rabbit hole, and then you bring it back, which we'll be covering in a future session. And again, when tapping into what I was just saying, how you give away your power to the people that write negative stuff or criticize you. When my dad said I couldn't sing for shit, I was like, well, I quite like singing, I'm going to keep singing. Don't listen to me then. And I've always had that kind of rebellious streak about me. After some of the people that know me quite well, know me for a long time. But when we're giving away our power, we're not just giving away our power to those people who say negative things. We're also sometimes giving away our power to the people that say positive things, because we then start looking for their validation. We then start looking for praise outside of ourselves. And that impacts our writing, because when we start writing, we lose focus about why we're writing. We're writing for approval. We're writing for the grammar police. We're writing for the editors or the publishers or readers, when really we should be writing from what's on our heart and what's in our soul. We need to write the things that make us feel most alive. And we need to look at, okay, this is what I am being called to write. This is what has been placed within me. And we're looking at a way of how we can harness that power. Because when we are worrying about the grammar police, we're worrying about how many reviews we've got. And just as a side note, a lot of people that have a lot of reviews have paid for them. You can buy 250 reviews for $250 and they won't mean anything, because some of them probably haven't even read the book. They've been given the synopsis, they've been given the 4,000 word character description, and then they've written something from it. They've given a really generic review. And you can buy those. I have never bought a review in my life, and I'm really proud to say that. And only 10%, if you are really lucky, will give you a review after reading your book. Which is quite sad, really, because people are really quite good at disrespecting and going negative on people, than they are actually praising them. So if you've read any of my books, please go give me a review. But the other thing is, if we give away our power to people who are praising or criticizing us, we lose that from within us. It's like I was talking with a young girl who I'm coaching at the moment, about a certain thing, and I was reminding her, every time you do that, you give that person power over you. Never, ever give away your power. You can share it, but never give it away, especially if you want to write a book. And I want you to think about when you're feeling most alive, who are you with? How are you behaving? What is it that you're doing, and who is it you're being? Because that beingness in that moment when you are on fire, like you get me talking about books, or you get me talking about sailing, I am lit up bigger than any Christmas tree and forest. Oh, I can't say that at the moment, probably. LA fires. Sorry to everybody living in LA. I didn't mean to upset. Can't remember everything, although I did remember that. Again, we've got to look at what are we doing? Where are we being? Sailing across the sandblast. I'd got my tunes on. I was dancing on the deck. I was at the helm, deck shorts on, sun was shining, having a great time. And while I was doing that, I was writing in my head. Because the thing is, when we're in that vibe, when we're in that moment, we have all of these downloads about what we're going to write, and we get all of these ideas and we remember them. And you'll probably find that when you are in a really concentration mode, really got to remember this, got to remember this, got to remember this. Sometimes we don't. But when we're in that high vibe, all of those brilliant ideas that we have, they're still going to remain there. And that is something that I wasn't present to when I first started writing. And then I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Because that is where our power is. That's where our authenticity is. And that is why we know that what we're wanting to write is what we're meant to write. Step 6, where I've got one more to go, and then I'll take any questions. Like I said, if you've got any, please remember to put them in the chat, and then I will answer them at the end. When we're thinking about who we truly are, do any of us really know who we are? Sorry, my neck just cracked just then. Oh, I need a Y strap. When we talk about, people talk about being our authentic self, but one of the biggest things I've learned when I'm writing is I'll be writing down something that I think I believe about a certain section of society, or a certain idea, or a certain piece of research or logic. And as I'm writing it down, I'm like, okay. Well, if I think that and believe that about this, and I apply that logic to this, that doesn't work, because that means I'm favoring these over these, or I'm quite prejudicial, or judgmental, judgmental. And I can't, that's out of alignment. And again, this is being our most authentic self. And we have to look at, and this is why the power of writing something is like nothing else I've ever done. Now, I am a writer. Some people write songs, some people cook, some people dance, some people make art, photography, and that's their way of expressing themselves. But I find that when we write, and when we look at the brain and the neurology of how our brain fires, when we're writing, yeah, I am a geek, and I own that, and I love that about myself. When we look at how the brain functions when we're writing, and we're researching, we're comparing these ideas, and we're really, really driving it down, we get present just to how many judgments and misalignments we have in our values and our belief systems. And that can be really confronting. And then you have a choice. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let that prejudice or that belief go? And are you going to change it? Are you going to develop it so that you've got alignment, or are you just going to ignore it and push it aside? Because again, when you're writing a book and you're putting your name to it and you're putting it out there in the world, you've got to really be 100% behind everything that you're writing. Because the moment you get up on that stage and someone asks you something about something you've written in your book, you've got to be prepared to answer it. And that's why writing with AI is just a bad idea. Don't write with AI. Don't disrespect yourself, your parents, your people who have supported you, and your readers. It's just a bad idea. you have got to be willing to and knowledgeable of everything you've written in your books and go, yes, I stand by that. Yes, this is what I meant, or this is how I meant it, because guaranteed there's going to be one person in a sea of 500, or you're going to be on a podcast and there's going to be one person that emails you that has read your book, that has interpreted something in a certain way that's going to blow your mind, and you're going to go, I didn't even think about that. And you've got to be prepared to stand by it. And that is why you've got to really know who you are, your core. And if you do know, is it enough for you? Or do you want to be better? Do you want to keep improving who you are? JCI always used to say, be better. And that's Junior Chamber International, for those who don't know that acronym. Final thing, final step is, how many masks are you wearing? Or do you think you're wearing? We've all got them. Like I said at the top of this, I didn't put any makeup on today. This is me. This is Dawn. Hoodies, tracky bottoms, hair back in a ponytail, no makeup. This is me. I'm not hiding anything. And I do love a little bit of lipstick and lip gloss, because putting lipstick on it when you can't see is not always a good idea. But again, when you get up in the morning and you're thinking about who you are and how you're presenting yourself, what does that person look like? Who is that person? How many masks are you putting on before you can even step out the door? How many masks did I put on before I came and sat here today and figured out all of this? And this was a really powerful exercise for me. It's like, because every time I step out there or I meet somebody, I'm like, okay, who am I being? Am I being Dawn, or am I being someone they think I need to be? Am I wearing heels because I want to wear heels, or because I think I have to wear heels? Am I dyeing my hair to make myself look younger? Am I going to stick with my grey hair? You know, how many masks are we wearing? Are we wearing something or using something or living somewhere just because we think we should do, or because we actually want to? And why is that person who made that decision still controlling you? So, for example, if you are smoking, or if you are eating unconsciously, or you are in a relationship, or you're drinking alcohol, and you don't want to do any of those, you've got to now go and ask yourself, why am I still allowing the person who made the choice to do those things or be in this relationship? Why am I still allowing that older version of myself to control who I am today? Because if we're not changing something, we're choosing it. And that's the thing. When we're not changing something that we know needs to be changed, it's controlling us. And we need to remember who we truly are. Because if we're going to write something and we're going to stand on those stages, or we're going to be presented and we're going to go on TV, we can tell ourselves that the TV adds pounds, photos add inches. No, they don't. They just capture what's there. Some people might be great at capturing an angle, but I don't sit still for 5 seconds. And as you can probably tell, if I didn't move my hands, I wouldn't be speaking. I'm very Italian and Arabic in that respect. But when we are 100% comfortable with who we are, and we've taken off all of those masks, and we've gone, actually, I don't want to smoke because that was a 14-year-old version of myself who chose to smoke to fit in with people. Or I'm vaping because it's a habit. It's not healthy. I know it's killing me. And I know that the tobacco companies and the vaping companies are laughing their head off every time I take a puff because I'm paying them to kill myself. That might not be something that is conscious in your mind, but that is effectively what we're doing. We're giving money to people for them to kill us. And the same was when we're eating processed food, or the same was when we're sat on the couch just watching Netflix instead of going for a walk with the dog. We're all guilty of something. I like a Netflix series, just like anybody else. Mine are probably a little bit darker than some people's. Maybe they're not, maybe they're too serious, but I don't care. I am very comfortable with who I am. And it's about, when we get to this point, are we happy with who we are? Because when we are writing, honestly, our messages flow, and we can put that our name to that book and be 100% happy with what we've written and what we've published. So they're the 7 steps. I hope you found those useful. I know there's a lot of information to take in there. I'm going to stop sharing that. And if there are any, there are no questions. We are down to Steve came and went. So I know that you're driving, Michelle. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can take yourself off mute while you're driving or if you have any questions, but now would be a good time to do that. I don't know what kind of setup you've got going on in your car.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, this was gold. I mean, my daughter and I actually just published a book last year. But I'm thinking about doing my own. And I think you've hit on, like, I'll write stuff and then I'm like, no, that doesn't feel quite right or whatever. But I think if I go through the process that you are talking about, I think that's what's missing for me.
Yeah.
Is not really digging into that and then, like, getting over myself, and putting it out there. So, so I guess I don't know that I really have a question about the process that you've just unveiled, because I think I just need to go through it for myself. But once you're done with that, like, how did you go about organizing the writing itself then? How much of this reflection do you insert?
Great question. And congratulations on publishing a book with your daughter. That's huge. Publishing a book, I mean, I still get excited 21 books in, and I'm like, oh my God, I just wrote a book.
Yeah, we're at that stage yet.
Like that, I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, we know we're on the right path with that. What I do is, once I've gone through all of that, I tend to find that I just sit and I just write. What is it I want? And then, I mean, I've been known to delete 10, 30 and 50,000 words before. I've just gone done, because and my publishing manager, Linda, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that. I was like, oh, it'll only take me a week to write it, because I do all my research. I write down all my notes. I collect all of them together. And then I will go in a Word document. I only use Word. I don't use any of the fancy software. I know that lots of people recommend it, but I just find Word is just brilliant. And I just do like a chapter outline. So I write down all the chapter titles, and then I'll put some bullet points in that I want to cover within that chapter. And while I'm writing, it's like, okay, well, that bit's really good. That fits into there. So I'll stick that in that chapter. Sometimes I just sit down and it just comes out. And it's like, wow, that was a purge. And I mean, when I sit down and write a book, I get rid of all notifications. I create my environment. I consciously and intentionally create that space to write. I've booked myself into hotels where there's room service, there is a pool, massages, and there's a beach. And I will go, right, I'm going to go sit on that sun lounger and I'm going to write. And then I write, and sounds like a load of cockroaches are running across the wooden floor, because my fingers are flying across that keyboard. And then I'm like, okay, I need to swim. I'll get in the pool. I'll do some swimming. I'll get back out. I have water. I'll start writing again. I leave my stuff. Then I'll leave my stuff on my sun lounger. I'll go for a walk on the beach. I'll come back. I'll do some more writing. So, but then there are times when I'm like, I'm in a hotel room and that is it. I'm just there, and room service just turns up and they go, are you still alive in there? I'm like, yes, I'm still here. And it's that process you've got to find for yourself with the book. And also, depending on what you're writing about, what support system you're going to have around you. When I was writing Alpha, that was a book that I just purged, but I knew that the trauma that Alpha went through, and that we shared together in our conversations before I wrote her story, I held a lot of her trauma in my body. So when I was writing it, I remember I think I was like, I don't know, a chapter in. I had to go and vomit. I purged all that trauma out, and I was asleep for a day. Then I got back up the next day, and I was like, I felt so amazing. Then there are others, again, there are so many different ways that you can write it. With Beth, her book is coming out at the end of this month on pre-order. It's called Raising Grit. She had created all of her notes. She knew what subjects she wanted to cover. And then I would be like, okay, well, and she was writing it from her perspective. And I'm like, okay, you're reaching a global audience. Because this is the other thing now. Once we put that book out, it's global. We've got to look at cultural identities. We've got to look at different socioeconomics. Books are so much more accessible now. They're not just for the middle and upper classes. They're not just, you've got people all over. And whenever I work with a client and I go through a manuscript assessment with them, it's like, how is what you're writing resonating with this audience? Beth is very middle class, white Italian. She's been in a marriage all her life. Well, not all her life, obviously. That would be a bit weird. But her and her husband have been married for 20 years. They have one son. I'm like, okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to put yourself into, say, my situation where my boys are of mixed heritage. They're divorced. I've been the long distance parent, not their dad, for the second half of their life, their teenage years. What would you say to me? Now I want you to think about a Latino family that's living in Florida. Now I want you to think about a Chinese family that has got Arabic descent in it. And I want you to start thinking about all of this, because then once you've written it from your perspective, it's the time to start thinking about writing it for a more global audience. And how does that resonate with them? What is that culture? What are they going to get of it? How are we writing for them? So that's how I go through the writing process. I write it out as I am, and then I add the next layer on the top. Does that
Okay, that's awesome. I think that'll be good for what I'm trying to do. The book that my daughter and I wrote was about our experience with her childhood eating disorder. So
wow.
the first like 3/4 of it is literally just our story. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't take that lens to it, because we just had to write it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when you
And
look at,
I can't be about what other people.
sorry, you broke up there.
I said in that particular instance, like I can't be in that part of the story, I can't be concerned about, other people's lenses, because this was, we very intentionally, in fact, we didn't even correct each other's perspectives or stories. That's, we make that very clear at the beginning, is there are a couple stories that don't align with each other, and we're like, yeah, that's kind of what
Beautiful.
eating disorders do,
Yeah.
is mess our perspective. And but yeah, this piece that I'm writing about, I love taking the lens of, once it's written out there, because I'm Western, you know US perspective, which is going to be one very limiting perspective, and can I take a broader lens to that? So I appreciate that.
Well, if
Thanks.
you need any help, then I'd be more than willing to take a look at it for you and see how I can support you on that. I do a lot of manuscript assessments that I don't publish because they're either not on brand, or the person's already published, they've already got a publisher. So if there's anything that you want me to do there for you, then I'm more than happy to support you on that.
Awesome.
Great. I know that you're driving. I don't know if you've parked up now. I was very conscious that, I speak really quickly, and I know that you were concentrating. There is a recording of this available. And
Awesome.
for all of you that are watching this on the replay, you can get the swipe files that you've seen on here. So you don't really need to take screenshots. You'll also get them, Michelle.
Awesome.
But if there's anything that I can help any of you with, or if you've got any further questions, just email me at hello@dawnbates.com or visit the website. My fabulous assistant Tai will actually make sure everybody's got everything that they need, all the links to book a session or ask me questions. But is there anything else that you would like me to cover there for you, Michelle?
No, thank you. This was great.
Great. Well, thank you so much for showing up today and investing your time and energy with us. And thanks.
Sorry.
I don't know if any of you heard that. My son's just come in and knocked stuff flying. I'm sorry. But again, showing up as real as can be. And that's what we need to be doing, because the more we show up as ourselves, the more we attract the people that accept us for who we are, which makes it easier to accept ourselves. If we're walking on edges or pretending to be someone we're not, then that's not a good place to be in. So sending you all lots of love and gratitude for being here today. If you want to connect with me, go over to LinkedIn. That's where I mainly hang out. It's linkedin.com/in/Dawn Bates, or visit the website dawnbates.com and you'll find out how I can support you. And there's some fabulous books on there as well, even if I do say so myself. My clients write some fabulous books, as do I. But take care of yourselves, keep smiling, and remember to stay true to yourself. Thank you so much. Ciao for now.
Thank you.